Hello everyone, this is part 3 video on past year NEET questions from the chapter electrochemistry. Now those who are looking at this video can probably take a look at the previous two parts also so that you will have continuity. We will start with a question that has come in the year 2012. The standard reduction potential of half reactions are given below. So what are these half reactions given to us? F2 plus 2 electrons gives rise to 2F minus. This is basically the equation representing the reduction of fluorine. The E0 value is what? Plus 2.85. Then chlorine 1.36. Then bromine 1.06. Then iodine 0.53. The question is they're asking the strongest oxidizing and reducing agents respectively are. So among these given substances, right, they are asking which will be the strongest oxidizing and which will be the strongest reducing agent. Now whenever we have a question like this, right, even if you happen to see the previous two parts where we have discussed some of the very recent year questions, there also we have seen that this model of question is getting repeated. So whenever we have these kind of questions, they will give a set of substances, their electrode potentials, and they will ask us which is going to be a strong oxidizing agent or which is a strong reducing agent, or they might sometimes ask us to compare or arrange them in the increasing order, decreasing order. So they can form a variety of types of questions. All these questions, right, the basic approach is this. So we have to first arrange these substances the way they appear in the electrode potential series. So how do we arrange them in the electrode potential series? The ones that have a high reduction potential, they will be at the top, and as we come down, the reduction potential is going to be decreasing. So somewhere here we will have the standard hydrogen electrode whose the standard reduction potential value is taken as reference 0. So usually you will have strong metals below, like alkali metals and all that, right? They will be having large negative value, okay, and non-metals will be at the top, especially the halogens will be at the top. So look at this, if you check these values, right, F2 is going to be here at the top, then Cl2, then Br2, then I2. The ones that are at the top, right, they will easily undergo a reduction. The ones that are at the bottom, they will easily undergo oxidation. So here, actually speaking, we should go to the bottom of the table, right? That's when we'll have the most tendency for the oxidation. But here the comparison is not with alkali metals, they are not even there in the picture. We are trying to compare between these halogens. So relatively, right, the reduction tendency is at the top. So reduction means which will undergo reduction? F2 will easily be able to undergo reduction, and the oxidation tendency is at the bottom. Oxidation means I minus has to undergo oxidation, because when I minus is undergoing oxidation, right, I minus will give us what? It will undergo oxidation. Oxidation is what? Losing of electrons. So F2 will undergo reduction, because the top there is a tendency for reduction. Bottom means what? There is a tendency for oxidation. So I minus will undergo oxidation. Now this is the point, understand this carefully. So if you say that F2 can easily undergo reduction, means what? The oxidizing power of F2 must be what? High. Because if F2 itself is undergoing reduction easily, it will be able to oxidize the other substances easy. Means the oxidizing power of F2 is what? High. And if I minus is easily able to undergo oxidation, means what? The reducing power of I minus is what? High. So here understand one thing, we are only talking about relative comparison, but actually speaking, the reducing power of the metals, especially the alkali metals, is going to be highest, because they will sit at the bottommost of the electrode potential series, correct? So among the four substances given to us, right, they are asking what is the question? the strongest oxidizing agent. So whichever has got a high oxidizing power, that is the strongest oxidizing agent. So which is the strongest oxidizing agent? F2. And reducing agent. So among the four given to us, right, what is the one that is having the reducing power high, I minus, means that will be the strongest reducing agent. So the correct answer for this is what? Option A. F2 will be the strongest oxidizing agent and I minus will be the strongest reducing agent. But broadly speaking, the halogens, among the nonmetals also, halogens which sit at the top right, they will be having overall, they will be having high oxidizing power, and the ones that will feature at the bottom of the series, the alkali metals, right, they will be having high reducing power. Okay, so this is a very standard type of question, and always, whenever we have these kind of questions, right, we have to first begin by arranging these substances the way they appear in the electrode potential series, and then we can analyze. The ones at the top, reduction is easy. The ones at the bottom, oxidation easy. Then we will be able to answer any type of question they are asking. Let's look at a question that has come in multiple years, this model of question particularly. So this is a question based on the Kohlrausch law. So Kohlrausch law, it says that at infinite dilution, the molar conductivity of the electrolyte is equal to sum of the molar conductivities of the respective ions multiplied by the number of times they appear in the electrolyte. So it's a very standard definition, and we will see what are the kind of steps that will be involved in solving a problem based on the Kohlrausch law. See, first in Kohlrausch law based problems, right, you will always have a question like this. Look at this. The molar conductivity is lambda m naught at infinite dilution. This is what? This is the limiting molar conductivity values. Lambda m naught means what? This is the limiting molar conductivity at infinite dilution. For NaCl, it is given 126.4, HCl 425.9, sodium acetate 91 Siemens centimeter square per mole. The lambda m naught for acetic acid will be, so always the standard model of question is like, they will give us certain number of electrolytes, their limiting molar conductivity values will be given, and they will ask us to find the limiting molar conductivity of an unknown electrolyte. So the thing is, we have to first look at what is this lambda m naught of the acetic acid. So lambda m naught of acetic acid, right? So when acetic acid dissociates, it gives us acetate ions and H plus ions, means that will be equal to the molar conductivity of the acetate ions plus the molar conductivity of the H plus ions. This sum is what we have to find. So how we are going to find? We are going to find based upon the given equations. Look at this, what is given? The limiting molar conductivity of NaCl means what? That is the molar conductivity of Na plus the molar conductivity of Cl minus. That sum is given as what? 126.4. Then the limiting molar conductivity of HCl, that is given as 425.9, means that is molar conductivity of H plus and molar conductivity of the Cl minus, that is what? 425.9. Then the last one is what? The limiting molar conductivity of sodium acetate, that will be molar conductivity of the acetate ions plus the molar conductivity of the sodium ions, that is what? 91. All are in the same units, Siemens centimeter square per mole. Now if you look at these three expressions, right, so let's just number them as what? 1, 2, 3. So if we look at these three expressions, we are looking for what? The molar conductivity of acetate ions plus molar conductivity of the H plus ions. Now the chemistry part of it is over. It's now basic mathematics. If you look at this, right, what kind of relation we can get? If you see the equation 3 and equation 2, if we add both of them, 3 plus 2 and subtract 1. So if we add 3 and 2 and subtract 1, what happens? This Na plus will be cancelled. Cl minus is cancelled. So LHS, what we will be having is this one, the molar conductivity of CH3COO minus plus the molar conductivity of the H plus. RHS side, what is going to be it? 2 plus 3 means 425.9 plus 91 minus 1, which is what? 126.4. That will be 390.5. Unit is what? Siemens centimeter square per mole. So this is what is our molar conductivity of acetate ions plus molar conductivity of the H plus ions. That is the limiting molar conductivity of acetic acid. So it's a very standard type of problem. So any Kohlrausch law based problem we will be taking the same kind of approach. So we will look at what is the expression we need to get the answer, and we will write down the limiting molar conductivity expressions for the given electrolytes, and we have to see which kind of addition subtraction will fit. So sometimes what happens is we may have to multiply the equations by a factor and then add them and then subtract them like that. So we have to carefully choose, because it's a basic mathematical operation type of question. We have to choose which kind of numerical adjustment will be able to give us the expression for the limiting molar conductivity of the unknown electrolyte. Clear? So let's go on to the next question. This is a question that has come in mains paper 2012. The Gibbs energy for the decomposition of Al2O3. So decomposition of Al2O3 at 500 degrees centigrade, right? What is the Gibbs free energy value for this given as? The Gibbs free energy value is given as del G is given to be 960 kilojoule per mole. That is the del G. If you see the decomposition, right, we can also see it like what? The decomposition can be also seen like the reduction of Al3 plus. The decomposition of Al2O3 can be also seen as what? Reduction of Al3 plus, because if you see the reaction rate in the left hand side, reactant side, we have Al2O3, means aluminum is in the +3 state. Right hand side, what we have? Aluminum is in the ground state or the free state. The oxidation number of aluminum is what? 0. Here oxidation number of aluminum is 0. Here it is what? +3, means aluminum is undergoing what? Reduction. Now question is the potential difference needed for the electrolytic reduction of aluminum oxide at 500 degrees is, means we need to find what is the potential difference that is required for the electrolytic reduction of aluminum oxide. Now if you think about it, right, the strong metals like aluminum, magnesium, we will study this in the metallurgy chapter, sodium, all of them, right, they will be reduced from their oxides by this electrolytic reduction process. Now if you see the reduction step, so as I said, the decomposition can be also seen as what? Reduction. So 2/3 Al2O3 gives rise to what? 4/3 aluminum plus O2. For this, right, del G is given. Del G is given as what? Plus 960 kilojoule per mole. So if you think of it like a cell reaction, right, then we have a relation, right? What is the relation? Del G will be equal to what? Minus NF into E cell. If you think of this as a cell reaction, del G will be equal to what? Minus NF into E cell. Now here the only thing that we have to be looking at is, so we know F is what? The Faraday constant, 96,500. N is the number of electrons exchanged in the cell equation. So if you see here the number of electrons exchanged, right, either we can get the number by looking at aluminum or we can get the number by looking at the oxygen. So we can try and get the number by looking at, say for example, oxygen. If you look at it, right, overall in the reactant side there are 2 oxide ions, and that gives rise to O2, and that must be releasing 4 electrons. So we can see in Al2O3 there is a factor 2/3, right? So 2/3 into 3 means what? 2 oxygen atoms are there, but the oxygen is not atoms, it is in the oxide ion form. 2 O2 minus. The product side we have O2. Oxidation state of is the oxidation state here is what? Oxidation state of oxygen will be 0, means 4 electrons must be released. So the number of electrons exchanged here is what? 4. Same if you do with aluminum also, you can check, the number will be 4. Here 4 electrons are released, means there the 4 electrons will be absorbed. Now our E cell, right? What will be the E cell value? Del G, which is 960 into 10 power 3 joule per mole, divided by N is what? 4. Of course, minus will be there because there is a minus. Okay, so 4 into this 96,500 coulomb per mole. So per mole is cancelled. So now if you check it, right, so what is it? This is like minus 960 into 10 power 3 joule per coulomb is what? Volt, into divided by 4 into 96,500. So if you simplify it, right, this will be coming approximately minus 2.5 volt. If you simplify the calculation, this will be coming approximately as what? Minus 2.5 volt. Now, so if you just do the cancellation, right, like say for example, this is what? 965 hundreds. So here also we can say 100 tens are 1000. So this is what? This is like, 960 by 965, almost we can cancel it off. So 10 by 4 means what? Nearly minus 2.5. This is minus in front. Okay, so the thing is, this is the E cell, and if we need to overcome this, right, in order to perform the reaction, because E cell negative indicates what? This is not going to be a spontaneous process. That is the significance of it, right? E cell is what? Negative here, minus 2.5. So if you want to make this reduction to happen, means the cell that we use should apply a potential which is more than this. Then only the cell will be able to overcome this and the reaction will happen. So the least value of the potential difference of electrolytic cell that we require will be what? Minimum we require 2.5. So since the E cell value for this reaction, right, if you think of this reaction as an electrochemical cell reaction, then what is it? The E value is coming as minus 2.5. Means this is non-spontaneous. If you want to make this happen, means our cell that we use should have at least a minimum potential of 2.5. Clear? So what are we doing with the question? It's a basic question where for the given equation, we are thinking of it like a cell equation, and we are calculating what is the value of E cell. That's it. So E cell is coming negative, means that is not spontaneous, and if you want to achieve this reduction of aluminum, we must keep this in a cell that will be able to minimum apply this much potential. Next we have a question that has come in 2011. Again, this is like the first question we have seen in this particular video part. The standard electrode potentials of three metals X, Y, Z are minus 1.2, 0.5 and minus 3 respectively. The reducing power of these metals will be. So whenever these kind of questions are given, so it's a standard approach, right? So what we have to do? We have to arrange them in the way they will feature or they will be present in the electrode potential series. So what is the concept of electrode potential series? Highest to lowest. So we can see Y is what? 0.5. Then comes X is what? Minus 1.2. we are coming below. Somewhere here we will have the standard hydrogen electrode 0. So Y is 0.5, then X minus 1.2, then comes Z. Z is what? Minus 3. So they are asking the reducing power of these metals will be in which order. So remember, if we go to the bottom of the series, these elements, right, they can easily undergo oxidation. Top easily undergo reduction, bottom easily undergo oxidation. Means when they are able to easily undergo oxidation, means what? Their reducing power will be high. So when they are able to easily undergo oxidation, means their reducing power will be high. Means at the bottom we will have the high reducing power. So what will be the order? Z is at the bottommost, so that will have the highest reducing power. Then comes X, then comes Y. So what will be the correct answer for this? Option C. Z will have the highest reducing power, then X, then Y. So always, reducing power means at the bottom of the series reducing power is high. typically the metals, alkali metals. At the top of the series, the oxidizing power is high, non-metals and particularly halogens. Next we have another question that has come in 2011 paper. The electrode potentials of two reactions. What is the first reaction? Cu2 plus electron gives rise to Cu plus. Second is Cu plus electron gives rise to copper. The electrode potentials are what? Plus 0.15 and plus 0.5 respectively. So we can call them as what? Say E1 and E2. The value of E0 for the copper 2 plus becoming copper will be. So if you look at this, right, this is like, we have two equations given, and there is an unknown equation, or we can also call it as a cumulative equation, because by making a combination, right, the given equations we can make a combination to arrive at this reaction. What is this? Copper 2 plus becoming copper. We need to find what is the E0 value for this particular reaction step. So the thing is, whenever we have a set of equations given, like here we can call the first copper 2 plus getting reduced, right? We can call that particular potential as what? E1 naught. And copper plus getting reduced, we can call it as what? E2 naught. What we are looking for is the E0 value for this one. What is it? Copper 2 plus getting reduced straight away to copper. If you look at this, right, this is nothing but, if you add equation 1 and equation 2, just add equation 1 equation 2, what we are going to see? Copper 2 plus 2 electrons gives rise to copper solid. This is like the overall. Now straight away the E0 value for this reaction will not be equal to E1 naught plus E2 naught, because the cell EMF values cannot be added like that. In fact, in I think second part video we had a similar type of question. We cannot be adding the cell EMF values like that. If you have in thermodynamics, right, we have Hess law. If you have individual step reactions, the overall reaction enthalpy change is equal to what? The enthalpy changes, sum of the enthalpy changes of the individual reactions. The same concept is true for the free energy changes also. If you have like first reaction, its free energy change is what? Delta G01. Second reaction, delta G02. Then overall reaction, right, delta G0 will be equal to what? Delta G01 plus delta G02. This is how we'll have. But we cannot say E0 is equal to E1 naught plus E2 naught. We don't have that kind of relation. The relation will be only in terms of what? The free energy changes. Now from here we have to get what is the E0 value. How? We know that delta G0 will be what? Minus N into F into E0. The delta G1 naught is what? Minus N1 into F into E1 naught. Here also minus N2 into F into E2 naught. So we can cancel the minus on both sides, and F also we can cancel on both sides. So what we have? E0 is equal to N1 E1 naught plus N2 E2 naught by N. Okay. So here in the first reaction, right, look at this. What is the number of electrons exchanged? N1 is equal to 1. Second reaction, N2 is equal to 1. The overall reaction, what is the N value? N is equal to 2. 2 electrons are exchanged. Okay. So there's a substitute. N1 is what? 1 into E1 is what? 0.15 plus N2 is also 1. E2 is what? 0.5. Divide by N. N is what? 2. So we can see, if we just numerator is what? This is 0.65 divided by 2, which is what? 0.325. So this is the E0 value for the particular reduction step, copper 2 plus straight away becoming equal to what? Copper. So whenever we have a set of equations, the reduction potentials are given, and they are asking us to find the reduction potential of an unknown equation, right? We don't have direct conversions, like adding E overall is equal to E1 naught plus E2 naught. That we cannot do. We can write the equation in terms of the free energy change or the Gibbs free energy change, just like the way we will do in terms of the enthalpy change, etc. Clear? Let's go to the next question. This is a question that has come in 2011. The standard electrode potential SN4 plus becoming SN2 plus. What is the standard electrode potential? 0.15. And that for chromium 3 plus becoming chromium, what is it? Minus 0.74. These two couples in their standard state are connected to make a cell. Means, so one side we have the couple of Sn plus 4 and Sn plus 2. Another side we have chromium 3 plus and chromium. Maybe, a solution of chromium 3 plus into which chromium metal is dipped. So these two couples are basically connected to make a cell. Then the question is, what is the cell potential? It's a very fundamental question. So if you look at it, right, so these are what the standard electrode potentials means, reduction potentials. Which is higher? The Sn4 plus Sn2 plus. The reduction potential is what? 0.15. Means this will be the RHS. RHS is what? Cathode. So whichever has got a high reduction potential, that will be cathode. And the chromium 3 plus chromium, what is the reduction potential? Minus 0.74 volt. This is our LHS. What is on the LHS? Always LHS is what? Anode. In the normal notation, right? RHS means what? Cathode. LHS means what? Anode. So what is the E cell value? E cell value will be E cathode, the reduction potential of cathode, minus reduction potential of anode. So some textbooks, they will also write it as what? E RHS minus E LHS, because always, the assumption is RHS we are talking about or convention rather, we don't call it as assumption. The convention is what? RHS will be the cathode part, LHS will be the anode part. So what is the RHS part? 0.15 volt minus of, what is the anode? Anode is minus 0.74. So what is it going to be? Minus of minus will be plus, right? So 0.15 plus 0.74, which is going to be what? 0.89 volt. So this will be the cell potential. It's a very, very preliminary question where we are just doing the formula for the cell potential. Cathode reduction potential minus anode reduction potential. Next we have a question that has come in mains paper 2011. A solution contains Fe2 plus, Fe3 plus and I minus ions. What is there in the solution? The solution contains Fe2 plus, Fe3 plus and I minus. This solution was treated with iodine. Means we are treating this with what? Iodine at 35 degrees. Means there are Fe2 plus ions, there are Fe3 plus ions, there are I minus ions and there is I2 also. The E0 value for the reduction of Fe3 plus. What is the E0 value? 0.77. The E0 value for the reduction of iodine. Reduction of iodine means what? I2 becoming I minus. What is the E0 value? 0.536. The favorable redox reaction is. So if you look at this, right, what is the Fe3 plus 2, Fe2 plus, the E0 value is here how much? The E0 value is given as 0.77. Next is what? The I2 becoming 2I minus. Here what is the E0 value? 0.536. So which is the higher? This is the higher. Okay, means what? Here this will undergo what? This will have reduction. And this will be having, if there is a reduction, means here what is it going to be? There is going to be oxidation, isn't it? Means here reduction means what? That Fe3 plus will get converted into Fe2 plus. There the reduction is going to happen. Okay. And here at this interface, what is going to be happening? Oxidation. Oxidation means what? I minus will lose electrons to form I2. This is the oxidation part, isn't it? So these are the reactions that will occur. If you just compare these options, right? So what is the option A saying? I2 will be reduced to I minus. Not correct. There will be no redox reaction. This is also not correct, because we will see that the electrode potentials are different. Means what? One of them will be the reduction part, other will be the oxidation part. Look at option C. I minus will be oxidized to I2. Are you able to see it? I minus is oxidized to what? I2. This is correct. Option D is saying what? Fe2 plus will be oxidized to Fe3 plus. No, in fact what happens, Fe3 plus will be reduced to Fe2 plus. So this is also not correct. What is the correct one? Option C, I minus will be oxidized to I2. So whenever we have these kind of questions, right, reaction mixture or couples being given, and they will ask us which will be the favorable redox reaction, then we should first decide which will be the reduction and which will be the oxidation. Accordingly, we will be able to decide on what is the favorable redox reaction. Next, we have a question that has come in 2010. For the reduction of silver ions, Ag plus ions, with copper metal, so copper metal, the standard cell potential is found to be 0.46, means the E naught value. The value of the standard Gibbs energy del G naught will be, means here what we need to find, what is the del G naught value. So if you look at this reaction, right, so what will be the reaction? The Ag plus aqueous will be reduced to silver, and copper will undergo the oxidation. So if you look at this reaction, right, the number of electrons exchanged will be 2, and what is the formula? Del G naught will be equal to what? Minus NF into E naught cell. So here the E naught value is given as what? 0.46, and N is 2, and F is what? Faraday constant, which is 96,500 coulomb per mole. If we substitute these values, right, on multiplication, this will be coming close to what? Minus 88,780 joule. Means if you convert this into kilojoules, means because they are giving in terms of kilojoules, right, that will be what? Minus 88.78 kilojoule. Approximately what is it? Minus 89 kilojoule. So since E cell is positive, right, the del G naught will be what? Negative. It indicates what? The particular reaction is going to be spontaneous. So for a cell reaction to be spontaneous, the E cell value has to be what? E cell has to be positive, and accordingly the del G value will be what? Negative. Because in thermodynamics we always talk in terms of the spontaneity by using the delta G. In electrochemistry, we can talk about the spontaneity by either using the delta G value or the E cell value. Delta G must be negative, or otherwise E cell must be positive for a spontaneous reaction. Next, we have a question that has come in 2010. An increase in the equivalent conductance of strong electrolyte with dilution is mainly because, see, equivalent conductance means what? First of all, equivalent conductance means the conductivity from one equivalent of electrolyte. Means we'll take one equivalent of electrolyte particles, the conductivity coming because of that is generally observed that for a strong electrolyte, this equivalent conductivity will be increasing with dilution. So we have to look at what is the reason for that. The reason is, if you look at a strong electrolyte, right, there is no question of the degree of dissociation. That question will not come. Why? Because strong electrolyte at any concentration, right, there will be almost complete ionization. The strong electrolytes, they undergo complete ionization at all concentrations. But what happens on increasing dilution is, you will see the particles, right, they will be quite distant. The effect of one particle on the other will not be there that much. That is going to increase the mobility of these ions. See, equivalent conductance means what? The conductance coming from one equivalent of the electrolyte particles. And irrespective of what is the concentration, generally all the one equivalent particles will dissociate, almost all of them. So it is not a question of, generally for weak electrolytes, right? See, for a weak electrolyte, what happens? If you increase dilution, means more and more of the electrolyte will be dissociated. So there the aspect will be about the degree of dissociation. But here in case of strong electrolyte, the degree of dissociation constant will not come. Almost at any concentration, all the electrolyte particles will be dissociated. But here what is happening is on dilution, the separation between these ions will be increasing. So effect of one ion on the other will not be there. So that is going to increase the mobility of the ions. And the mobility of the ions increasing means that is going to result in the increasing of the conductance or the equivalent conductance, because already the number of particles are fixed. If we take one equivalent of electrolyte means, if it is fully undergoing dissociation means, what we are going to get? We will get one equivalent of the cation particles and one equivalent of the anion particles. That will be fixed. Now the thing is, because dilution will increase the separation between them, their mobility will be increasing. So the correct answer for this is what? The increase in the ionic mobility. If you look at option B, what is it saying? 100% ionization of electrolyte at normal dilution. No, that 100% ionization happens at almost every concentration. Option C is saying what? Increase in both the number of ions and ionic mobility. No, this is not correct. Why? Because the number of ions will not increase. Whatever the one equivalent of ions we are having, right? Since it is a strong electrolyte, at any concentration the number of ions will be almost the same. Then option D is saying what? Straight away increase in number of ions. This is not correct, because the number of ions are not going to be changing with dilution, because it is a strong electrolyte. The number of ions are going to change in case of the dilution if it is a case of a weak electrolyte. So the correct answer for this is what? Option A. Next we have another question in 2010 that has come based on the equivalent conductance. Which of the following expressions correctly represents the equivalent conductance at infinite dilution for aluminum sulfate? So equivalent conductance at infinite dilution for what? Aluminum sulfate. Given that the lambda naught Al3 plus and lambda naught SO4 2 minus are the equivalent conductances at infinite dilution of the respective ions. So if you have the one equivalent of electrolyte, always one equivalent of electrolyte will give us one equivalent of cations and one equivalent of anions. Because what do you mean by equivalent of an electrolyte? That much mass of electrolyte which can exchange 1 mole of electrons. That is the concept of the equivalent. Means when it is dissociating, it will give us exactly one equivalent. One equivalent of cations means what? They can exchange 1 mole of electrons. One equivalent of anions means what? They can also exchange 1 mole of electrons. So one equivalent of an electrolyte gives one equivalent of cations and also one equivalent of anions. So if you look at the equivalent conductivity of any electrolyte at infinite dilution, that will be what? That will be simply nothing but, in this case, right, the equivalent conductivity of Al3 plus, because we will just get exactly one equivalent of cations, plus the equivalent conductivity of the sulfate ions, because we will get exactly also one equivalent of the anions. So what is the correct answer for this? Option B. Whenever we take one equivalent of an electrolyte, we are going to be getting what? One equivalent of the cations and one equivalent of the anions. Clear? So this is about the part 3 video, and we will see in the next part.